Time, full start, we go again. Boom! Squeeze the Neck podcast. Today we're at City Boxing Camp, and it is City Boxing Camp. I got it wrong once already, but we get there with my new mate, Emmanuel
Alao.
My guy, top man. Cheers. Thanks for doing this, mate, and thanks for having us here, Jim.
No
Obviously,
problem.
I've been here before. It was last week, right? With the Malik Scott.
Last Sunday, yeah.
Last Sunday, Masterclass, I think they call it in boxing, right?
That's the one.
Jiu Jitsu, we'd call it probably a seminar, but it was a Masterclass, but it was good. So, thanks for having me back, mate. Thanks for doing this. But before we get into anything too deep, tell us where we are.
So we're in City Boxing Camp in Stratford. We like to see ourselves as an inclusive gym. So we support people right through from youth, people that have never boxed before, right through to we have a few pros come down to train as well. So we like to encompass everybody.
Yeah, well, when you say a few pros, on the wall there's a signed picture of Mr. Roy Jones Jr. So we'll give him a bit of a better introduction, I think, right? Some pros, you've had some superstars in it, man. So, this is the first City Boxing gym, is it?
Yeah, so this is our second location. So, is the background noise okay?
Yeah, fine, mate. This should kill it. We're all good. We're all straight.
So, yeah, this is our second location. So we started off down the road in Stratford High Street, back of a restaurant. And we've been at this location now for about 3 years.
Nice. And what's the plan with this one, mate? Is this like first of many, or is this just going to grow and have masterclasses and things like that?
Yeah, look, I think expansion is always an option. Right now, we're just focused on getting this packed out and fully optimized before we start to look at something else.
But 3 years deep, I mean, and I heard of it recently, but I saw clips of the Roy Jones Masterclass, we're calling that one as well.
Yeah.
Way back, when was that? Last year sometime?
Yeah, last summer.
I saw that a while back, and obviously, like, to get people like that in, like, you've obviously got some connections or whatever. So, like, if we talk about you a little bit, like, what's your background? Was you a boxer as a youth, and you sort of come up through it?
Yeah, so in terms of my own background with boxing, my dad was a massive fan of boxing, particularly the heavyweights era, the 70s, the likes of Ali, Foreman, Fraser, all of those guys. So growing up, we just had loads of VHS tapes.
And where did you grow up? Did you grow up around this way?
I grew up in Devon. So this was in Devon.
Oh, right, okay, wow, we've got loads of stuff to talk about.
Also Newcastle as well, but yeah, in Devon. And so yeah, we just had loads of VHS tapes. And yeah, growing up, just used to watch those with our dad. In school, I had a teacher called Mr. Powell. So we had some punch bags come in, some gloves, and out of nowhere, they just started a boxing club. So I was like, you know what, I'll give it a try, and kind of caught the bug from there.
What age are you at this point?
I think I was probably maybe 13, 14.
Yeah, so young,
Yeah, it's like year 9 times. But then I went away from it, went to football, track and field, so a bit of sprinting, and then came back a few years later.
And how'd you end up in London if you're from Devon and Newcastle? Before we get to any of that, let's get to you a little bit. Like, you're in Devon. Was you born in Devon? Was you?
No, I was actually born in Newcastle.
You was born in Newcastle. So take us from there. I was up there recently. Shout out Newcastle MMA. I can't remember the name of the gym. I'm butchering gym names today, but I was up there recently. Great people, good place. So tell us, take us through your story, mate, of Newcastle.
Yeah. So those are my earliest memories. So I'm a big Newcastle fan.
We get onto a question at the end. You've just butchered it, but we'll get to that. I'll give you some stick for that one later. Never mind.
Yeah, so big Newcastle fan, grew up there, and then moved to Devon when I was still quite young. Stayed there throughout school, and then moved up to London when I started uni, so when I was 18.
Oh, really? So you're not a London guy really at all, are you? You're just like adopted, and we've
adopted East Londoner.
Yeah, are your family from Newcastle, are they?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so you like travelled. What was the Devon situation? Why did you end up in Devon?
I think it was just my dad's work, to be honest.
Oh, was it? Okay, simple, straightforward.
My dad's work. They wanted somewhere quiet, peaceful to raise the kids, and to be honest, I don't blame them.
Oh, really? Yeah, Devon, Newcastle. But how far is that from Newcastle? Jesus Christ.
Other end of the country.
I was going to say, that's about as far away from Newcastle as you can get in England.
Literally up and down, isn't it? Northeast to southwest, as far as you can get.
Right. So, like, when you start boxing, was that in Devon? Was it? I take it.
So I started boxing in school in Devon, and then when I say properly started training was when I moved to London.
Right. And how old are you at that point?
18.
18. Okay.
Yeah.
How old are you now?
32.
32. I was going to say you look young. I was going to say you only look about 18 now, but you're 32. So, like, when you come into boxing, was the purpose of getting into boxing to actually compete and be a boxer?
I wouldn't say so. I think I really enjoy the discipline that sports gives you, and I really enjoy individual sports because you have that ultimate accountability. Team sports, football, I can have a brilliant game, but if my team's a bit shit, they're a bit shit, and there's not really much I can do about it, right?
Mate, you know yourself, if you box in the amateur, you can have a brilliant fight and still the judges might give it the other way. That's a story for another day.
That is true as well. But look, ultimately, there's always something you can work on yourself, so I think that's what I enjoyed about it the most.
And what was your amateur background? Did you start boxing at a club and actually fight?
Yeah, so I'd say I'm a product of Peacocks, so Peacocks Canning Town. So I think I had about 10 or 11 amateur fights for them, and stopped in 2020, lockdown. So when the amateur gym shut down in Canning Town, that's when we kind of started this up.
Is that right? So in lockdown, to start a gym's kind of like, well, I was going to say a crazy thing, but it's a brave thing to do, isn't it? Like, what's the thinking behind that? Was you in any kind of, I'll do this, but just for now, or was it actually a vision of like making this what it's sort of becoming?
Well, look, I think, I'm a big believer in God. I believe everything happens for a reason. And it was like a natural progression. So obviously in lockdown, there's no gyms. People are quite depressed. And I was just thinking about my immediate circle. I know loads of amateur boxers. And we know if you're in martial arts, you need to have competition dates. You need to be in regular training, just for your own kind of mental state and to keep focused on a goal. And there's no competitions. Nowhere for people to train, so I just saw a lot of boxers just kind of doing nothing. So I was like, look, we can't be doing this. Rounded up a few of my friends, my brother, we went to the parks and just started training amateurs outside. Then before we know it, we had members of the public coming up like, who are you guys, what are you doing? We want to train as well, kind of thing. And that kind of planted the seed like, you know what, let's formalize this a bit more and give people an avenue to train outdoors and still enjoy themselves.
What was you doing for a living at this point before you transitioned
So
over?
I work in sales 9 to 5.
Okay, so you like a proper job really, like a grown-up job, innit? And like to start a gym in lockdown as well, it wasn't a conscious effort to start the gym, you just started training people and it's sort of one thing led to another, is it?
Exactly, literally like that.
Yeah, and then like coming out of lockdown, what's the situation with gyms? Because from memory, I trained a little bit at my amateur boxing club, like coming out of the lockdowns. Because they was allowed to open earlier, and like some gyms were allowed to open. One of the Jiu Jitsu schools, shout out Elevate, they was open before my school, etc., etc. So it was one of them situations where certain gyms were open and there was tier system, all that. You'd probably know more than me. But what was the situation with like getting started with a gym at that time?
To be honest, we didn't start off as an official gym. I mean,
was you in somewhere else, was you?
Our first premises was literally like a lock-up garage in East Ham.
Is that right? Yeah.
So we got to, I think it was summer 2020. We started getting some good rapport, some clients, some one-to-ones, some outdoor classes. And then we realized, what's going to happen when it gets cold? Everyone's just going to leave.
Yeah, of course.
So like, we need to find a little location where we can keep these clients. So we rented out a small garage in East Ham, started training people there, and then started looking for the next space.
Nice. And when did this place come about?
So this location here was, 3 years ago now. 3 years.
And how did this start coming about, like the facility becoming like a full-time gym?
So we were in the back of a restaurant before. Shout out to the owner. She was actually originally a client, so we're training one-to-one. She's like, look, I've got space in the back. And we ended up training there for a bit. And then the lease expired. So we're like, okay, we've got 2 months to now find a new venue. And yeah, you can imagine, manic. So yeah, we managed to find this space, fortunately. A little bit of renovation, adding the changing rooms. This was an office before, so it was kind of like on 2 floors. But we kind of had the vision there. Just put it together, really.
And like, if we go just back a step, like when you was an amateur boxer, did you have any desire to go pro yourself? Was that on the horizon for you?
I mean, I don't know. Look, the professional game is something that you have to be fully committed to, I think. And I have my hands in a lot of pies, so I didn't want to go into it half-heartedly. But yeah, I think, look, one day I would like to have a pro fight.
Oh, you would? You're still on that journey? You still got any desire to box in the amateurs now, or?
No, I'm done with the amateurs. At the moment, I do like semi-pro unlicensed bouts.
Okay. So you are still boxing?
Yep, I've got a fight next month.
Oh, all right. What date?
14th of June.
14th of June. This will come out after that, but like we're all the best anyway.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
In fact, we can get this out before, so we can pump this in. We will get it before the bout, maybe.
A little bit of promo.
We'll see how it goes. Yeah, a bit of promo for you.
Yeah.
But like with the name City Boxing Camp, I've got a load of questions around the gym itself. But like, let's get back to a little bit of sort of your desire with the pro thing, getting fighters in it, etc., etc. Like to have Roy Jones in it, and of course Malik Scott, but it's been open a bit longer. Roy Jones was relatively early in the thing. Yeah. How's that come about? Are you getting sort of names like that coming through the door?
Yeah, so look, we had a connection that we work with, kind of like he was doing like supplies, did a little bit of everything. So he does like some merchandise, he does some massage. So we just had a conversation, and he was like, "Oh, by the way, I'm really close friends with Roy Jones."
Who's this?
I forgot his name now.
Because has he got the Instagram page Masterclass something or other, or some kind of?
He's connected to them.
I think I met him at a Nigel Benn Masterclass. I think if it's the right guy, but I can't remember his name either. So we move on fast.
Yeah.
But sorry, mate.
So yeah, he just came back and was like, look, I'm tight with Roy Jones. I like what you guys are doing here. And sometimes you just think, okay, yeah, whatever. You get loads of people say stuff.
A name like that as well, right? That's a big name drop.
So I said, all right, cool. I said, look, when he's in London, we'll try and get something lined up. He's really passionate, loves working with kids. loves giving people knowledge. And, you know, just from listening to his commentary, like, on fights, you can tell that this guy is, like, super clued up about boxing. And a key concept we have here is we want to teach boxing the right way. So proper technique, knowledgeable coaches, and people that are going to give you information that you can take, whether you're just doing boxercise classes, hitting the bags, or if you're actually going to go on and compete.
Because that's a big thing in like an amateur club anywhere, but especially somewhere like this where it's a bit more sort of open to the public from what I understand, right?
Yeah.
Like you get a lot of people that go in boxing, as I say, normal boxing gym, that never got any desire to box necessarily. They just want to train, or maybe they do, but then they realise how tough it is, etc., etc. What is this place geared towards? Do you have amateur boxers coming out of here as well?
We're not in the amateurs at the moment. We've got a few guys doing unlicensed because it's a bit of an easier path to get in.
Right.
But I think, look, we've got a really good batch of youth coming through that we're trying to mould in the right way, right technique. So I think having an amateur class is something that we're going to look to do maybe in the next year or so.
And we've got fighters in here today, like looking. Are they fighting pros or are they fighting on the unlicensed scene?
They're fighting unlicensed.
Yeah.
So we've got Carl out on the 7th of June. And we've got Janet out 7th of June as well on the Fight Zombie card. So.
Where's that at?
I think it's in West London.
West London somewhere, the right side of the river, I'm assuming. We'll find out, we'll get to that later. You've already butchered the football team, but maybe I'll convert you. But like, if you go back to sort of this gym sort of becoming a full-time thing, was there like a specific sort of turnaround where you thought this is going to be a business, this is going to be real, versus like a training someone in the back of a restaurant's kind of, not like I'm putting it down, but like it's like gimmicky almost, doesn't it? It almost doesn't sound like a real thing. It's just we train people in the back of a restaurant. Whereas now you come in here, like you got bags everywhere, you got like high-level fighters coming in, etc., etc. What's the transition between that?
Like I said, I think it's just a natural journey, a natural progression, you know? And we make sure we have really passionate coaches. So they're personal, they're passionate, and I think that passion just kind of drives the business forward.
I got you. And when you've got guys in it, I'm assuming this is a small ring. Do you have people sparring in here hard?
Yeah, we love the sparring here.
Because I always liked a small ring when I was sparring. Like small ring, I think goes a long way, doesn't it? It just cuts a lot of fat off the bone, doesn't it?
Exactly. 14 foot. It's good, man. Like I said, it's a phone booth. You get some tasty rounds in here.
Yeah, especially if you're heavyweights. There was a guy at Malik Scott, Will All Night Long. I can't remember his surname. Will All Night Long. Yeah. Shout out, he's coming on the podcast.
Nice.
He's like with him in the ring, there ain't much room left in here. Do you know what I mean? If you spar with him, like that's
two steps and you're done.
2 steps, you're done. And it's
no
like,
room
what
to
weight
hide.
did you box at?
So I'm light heavyweight.
Light heavy? Are you really? Yeah. Because I'm assuming you're close to that walking around anyway, yeah?
So I usually walk around like 83, 84.
Yeah,
if I'm in
and
shape.
there's no desire to sort of say I'm going to cut down and get to like middleweights and all that kind of business.
I mean, to be honest, my next fight is at light heavyweight and like official light heavyweight, so 79.5. So I want to see how that goes.
Yeah, I got you. Because it's funny division now. Like I back in the day, without mentioning names, like I'm trying to name drop or anything like that, but I sparred with some guys that were light heavyweights that were of a size you'd go, yeah, it makes sense. Then you spar with some light heavyweights, you go, if he chopped his leg off, he still wouldn't be a light heavyweight. Do you know what I'm saying? It's a funny division, isn't it? It's almost like, I guess it's not nowadays with science and stuff. You look at people like Callum Smith, who fought super middleweight, but historically, light heavyweight is sort of the first division where you start getting real big men in it. You know?
Exactly.
Which again is changing a bit now, but like, if you've got in there with someone who's 6'3" with a wingspan and they walk around at 98 kilos and they're cutting down, it's a lot to ask, isn't it, for someone of your size sort of thing. But you feel comfortable with that, I'm assuming.
No, look, I think in the amateurs I was boxing at cruiserweight at age 6.
Really?
And used to spar heavyweights all the time. Yeah. And I think I actually prefer sparring or fighting slower guys, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, light heavyweight's comfortable, man.
Is it? Yeah, it's comfortable. Yeah. Because like going forward in the unlicensed, are they quite tight on strict on the weight? Because we've all been at shows where someone comes in, they're 2 kilos over, and they go.
Yeah. No, look, I think I'm doing boxing Grand Prix next, boxing GP, and I'd say, yeah, they're running it quite professional standards. You know? Really good promotions. Big up George, the promoter. He's always getting me good fights and good shows and opportunities. So shout out to them. And yeah, they run it like a professional outfit, which is why I like to align myself with them. Quest as well. I've done quite a few of the Quest boxing shows as well.
I've heard of it. Yeah, that's cool. But like, take us through your training, because boxing training nowadays, I feel like, well, if you look at Usyk, he spoke recently. He does like a wrestling session a week during his training camp.
Makes sense.
And like it seems to be working out for him. Doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? Like, people do seem to be doing more sort of cross training. I think Tony Bellew spoke about doing like wrestling on the feet. Obviously not the wrestling, the ground part, because it's not going to benefit him much for boxing. But he spoke about doing some wrestling and whatever for certain positions or that kind of. Do you fuck with any of that, or are you more just like pure doing your boxing training?
Look, I think I don't do the wrestling, but I can really see the benefits.
Yeah.
Look at someone like Terence Crawford, and if you've got even MMA guys, like the way they're strong in the clinch, the way they can fight on the inside, I think it just adds another crease to your game. So I'm not opposed to it at all. I think I'm okay on the inside. I can hold myself, but there's still definitely some things to learn, how to manipulate the positions and whatnot. So yeah, definitely open to it.
Yeah, I got you. What's your training like nowadays, mate? What would you do? Like, are you training? I'm assuming you're one of them everyday training type people, right?
6 days a week and 1 day recovery. So we've got a camp now. We've got the two guys fighting on the shows coming up. So we do sprints twice a week, one longer set of 400s, 100s. Try and spar 2-3 times a week. In between that, it's bags, pads, stretches. Yeah.
That's interesting, isn't it? Because it's like, it sounds old school, and like I'm a big believer of old school is like, it reigns true, because you get a lot of people nowadays doing fucking twists with the cables and all this kind of nonsense. I say nonsense, people will argue with it. I think it's kind of like, it's gimmicky, innit? Do you know what I mean? If you want to learn to punch, go and punch the fucking bag. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of that, not so much now, but a few years ago, like pandemic sort of time, that seemed to sort of be going away, didn't it? And people started to get a little bit tricky, or maybe it was just what I was seeing. But like, for you, are you once a day, 2 a day trainings and all that kind of business?
So I'll do, in a training camp, I'll do twice a day.
Yeah.
So 5K in the morning or my sprint session, and then in the evening, boxing focused.
Yeah.
But look, I'm really keen on technology in boxing, because I think there's definitely a place for the old school sort of training methods, and I personally incorporate a lot of that into my training. But I'm also looking at, marginal gains. So a few supplements. I see you've got your Whoop on as well, so tracking our...
First team all Whoop.
Come on. Just tracking your high intensity training. So I think it's good to bring statistics, data, and science into boxing, because I think we're a bit behind compared to the rest of the other sports.
Do you? Yeah, because it's interesting. I think if you listen to like the You Make Ben fight that was recent, if you look into their camps, now obviously they're showing you what they want to show you, right, for the cameras, but Conor Ben, and he said Nigel Ben, Conor Ben seems to be like a lot of, he's got a guy with him that seems like he's his strength and conditioning coach, his nutritionist, whatever, and they, for whatever they're doing, seem like they're taking heart rates. So I guess it's coming around new age, isn't it? But my concern is, I think sometimes you can overdo that, and I know people say, oh, you're a dinosaur, but you can overdo that. I think you're not worrying about the wrong thing, but you can be. Do you see where I'm coming from? Whereas sometimes, get in a ring, let's fucking spar, bro. Do you know what I'm saying? And I think,
for sure,
because again, a few years ago there was a wave of people saying, oh, more in martial arts, I think, more than boxing, but maybe you don't need to spar, which to me is the biggest load of nonsense. I
have heard of a couple of fighters that apparently don't spar, but I don't know. I don't know
how. I wonder if it's true.
I don't think it's true.
It can't be. You've got to spar, right?
You have to spar.
If you've ever got in there where you haven't sparred for a while, you know how you feel.
Your timing's off,
And it's not a big difference. So to their point, maybe there's an argument. It's not a massive difference, but there is a difference. It takes you a round or two, doesn't it, to go, all right, cool, now I'm back again. And I feel the right things. Oh, he jabbed me. I should have seen. Better yet, I did see it coming, but it still landed anyway. That's when I feel like you're a bit slow to the beat.
If a fighter told me they don't want to spar, I'd be like, I don't know what you're doing.
You can't play tennis, right? What are you doing? How can you go from there?
But look, I get the opposite side, which is too much sparring,
Right.
Can be detrimental. And we hear about guys getting left in the gym and, putting too much into the gym sparring, then they're a bit short on fight night or short careers. So you have to look after the fighters. So I like doing sparring drills as well, not just full out wars, sometimes technical or conditional sparring. So varying the sparring is good. But when it comes to sparring, I think the actual most important thing is getting in opponents that are literally like the person you're going to fight.
Right, okay.
I think that's actually the most important thing. For example, if I'm going to fight a tall, skillful southpaw, there's no point in me fighting a short slugger on the inside. It's literally doing nothing for me. So I think trying to get sparring partners that imitate your opponent is actually the most important thing.
And what's like your boxing training like in terms of, like, obviously we all hit the bags, we all do the pads, but what's a boxing session look like for you? Because the reason I asked, which I'll come on to in a minute, is like Malik Scott's workshop here, I thought was fantastic, and we'll get into it, but like what's your sort of typical meat and potatoes boxing session?
So I like to start off with some skipping, get the legs activated, some ladder stuff, some footwork drills, and shadow boxing is the most important thing for me, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So I think that's where you actually develop your skills, get sharper. So shadow box, and then depending on which trainer I'm with or coach, then we'll work on specific kind of routines or combinations.
So if you're like looking after the body in a certain way with your boxing session, and then sparring is obviously sparring, but do you look, I guess what I'm trying to say is, do you look at your boxing sessions like a practice as much as training?
Yeah, I think, more practice and skill. Because look, anybody can get fit and strong. You know, that's just about go out and run, lift some weights, explosive exercises, you'll be strong, you'll be fit. But I think the skill aspect and the learning is a really important part.
Because it is a mistake people make, and Eubank Senior spoke about it, didn't he? There's a lot of PE teachers
PE teachers,
now,
yeah.
work going. And like, I don't know if you've ever done, I've done pad work with people that are really great on the pads,
Yep.
and you're doing all this and you go, wow, but you're like, at a certain point, I go, that's a great workout, but like, hey, I don't do that when I'm going to fight. I'm going to throw a jab to your face and try and, do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Versus like slip to the left, throw 7 shots this way, and I think that can come into it too. But the reason I tie that into the Malik Scott thing that was here last week was that I thought that was just brilliant, right? We've all been to sort of boxing sessions where you've had a great workout, like I'm saying, but it's like, what did I learn? Once you go back the next day, you go, well, I didn't really learn much. I just felt like I had a great workout. But that one, my mind's been going ever since. Do you know what I mean? I've been thinking about things. Just
the amount of notes I took from that workshop.
Yeah.
A full page of notes from that.
Yeah, and certain little things, just like, and a lot of it was, not I'm giving away secrets, but a lot of it was simple, wasn't it? It was nothing like that someone that wasn't basic level, like, you ain't got to be a freak athlete to do it, is what I'm saying. Like, you ain't got to throw a leaping left hook from 6 feet away to make that shit work. Like, there was a lot of just step this way, jab that way, move your head that way, block that. Do you know what I mean? Like, very meat and potatoes, which I think was very good. And listening to him speak about Deontay Wilder as well, the way he'd implemented things, I thought was brilliant and stuff like that. But like, he's an interesting case as well. How did you get Malik Scott involved here?
So we just reached out to him. I think.
Was it that simple? Yeah.
Yeah, we just reached out to him, told him what we planned on doing. So I think, look, we tried to be really organised and professional and let the coaches or the boxers know that, you know, this is a place where everything's sorted out. We just want you to come do your own thing. Right. You have free reign on how the class is going to work, but we're just going to provide support for you. We're going to provide you the location, we're going to promote it, and just get the word out there.
That's interesting. And is that your plan going forward, to have more masterclasses and sort of have this as a place that does that?
For sure, look, but we want to get the right people, you know? I want to get people that I'm like, I would want to go and learn from them, because I know that, you know, they're going to teach me something I didn't know.
Yeah. And have you got anyone lined up that you can speak about? Or
When it's signed and done, then we'll confirm it. But definitely. Look, we've been reaching out to the people and see. I think in the next couple of months, hopefully we'll have another one. That's
interesting, because I tell you what, I've never been to really boxing like masterclasses like that before. I've worked with a lot of trainers and stuff like that. I've done things. But it's more like a training session. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I did this one, I did Nigel Benn recently.
Nice. How was the Nigel Benn one?
It was really good, yeah. Very different to that. It was a bit more kind of like, when I say basic, I don't mean like, not that you didn't learn anything from it, do you know what I mean? But it was more sort of like, bang, bang, move that way, go, boom. Okay, do you know what I mean? It was very different to that, whereas it was training in a certain way, do you know what I mean? And beneficial, and to be honest, probably, from the outside, more beneficial for someone like me, the way I would fight anyway. But like coming here and listening to Malik Scott, very different. As I say, it was like a practice. When it became clear after sort of 5 minutes, like, oh, we're learning shit today. We're not like, he ain't worried about if I'm sweating. Do you know what I mean? So that was the difference, but very good. But the reason I bring it up is like Jiu Jitsu, like seminars is a big part of the culture of it. Really? And I've done a million of them, and they're all over the place. I say a million of them, I ain't done a million of them, but you know what I mean? I've done loads of them over the years, and they're a bit different in terms of some are more technical, some are more fitness oriented. Not fitness orientated, but it's more of a workout. But they're all along the same lines as like a system, whereas boxing's a little bit different anyway. But as I say, until recently, doing these two, it wasn't really an option. Like, for my knowledge anyway, of doing like these things with boxing. Boxing was like, go to the club, hit the bag, done 12 rounds, get in the ring, do your pads, now spar, and if you're any good, we take notice of it, do you know what I mean? And I think that's probably dying out a little bit as things are going on. But to work with a coach is obviously a different experience, but at the same time, there still can be an element of like, right, let's get the workout done. Now, if you're in a high level camp, like, I don't know, let's as an example, you're Roy Jones in his prime. It's all geared around you. Like, there's a million examples I could have used, but like a top fighter who's getting paid millions for their fight, it's all about them, right? So, but it almost like that, even though there's a room full of people, that gives you that kind of more attention. Like Malik Scott's walking about in here, and he said to a few people, like, move that. Just a little, do you know what I'm saying? Little details, and he's on it, and he's obviously passionate about it. But if you can go forward, and not just this gym, but loads of gyms that are around that are putting these things on. I think West London Boxing Academy
they do
coming up. Kingston ABC, shout out to the boys at Kingston, which is where I did the Nigel Benn one. Nice. But like, I think if that becomes an option, that's got to raise the game of everything, innit? Because like back in the day, amateur boxing, like I'm not that old, but like when I was amateur boxing, like when I was starting, even back then, it was, we're talking sort of 2008. I think I had my first bout, sort of them sort of times. It was very sort of, if you're any good, we take notice of your type vibe. Do you know what I'm saying? It was very much like, do what everyone does. We all do this, we all do that, and then like just come what may. Whereas like now, and also you see amateur boxers dropping their hands and doing things nowadays. That would have been like a slap round the back of the head and don't even talk to me type of vibe now.
Yep.
But like, I think you started a little bit after me. Like, what was the vibe like starting a Peacock? Were they a bit more open-minded? Because, and sorry to keep talking, but the reason I ask is because I've seen Anthony Yard in there doing all kinds of like slick stuff. Like, that wouldn't fly in a lot of places, right? A lot of people go, what the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Obviously, it works for me, he's fought for world titles. But like, what was the vibe like over there?
So I think I had some really good trainers there. Shout out to Dave and Andre, Dave Sadler, Andre Ollie. Really good. They taught me a lot of the fundamentals, and look, there was definitely an element of work hard, and you know, we have our stars or our top guys. But I think for someone like myself, I prefer hard coaches. And I'm a hard coach myself on my clients and the fighters I work with. So for myself, that works. But I also had the perspective and understanding to know that's not for everyone.
Right.
So I looked at the gym, I looked at the demographic. If you're a tough individual, really mentally strong and viciously competitive, then you're going to do well in that environment. Most people aren't like that. So consciously, we wanted to make an environment that was a little bit opposite to that, where you walk through the door, everybody greets you with a smile. You know, whether you're a shit boxer, it's your first time, whether you're a star, everybody gets the same kind of treatment. So, yeah, look, like I said, it's not for everybody, but I think it actually makes strong characters. So
yeah, but that warm environment, I think, goes a long way, doesn't it? When you go in the gym and you've got that kind of like friendly environment's the wrong word, isn't it, for a boxing gym? But do you know where I'm coming from, right? There's like a warm environment, like good energy in there. Like I've been today, coming here, I was at Diesel. Shout out to the boys at Diesel.
Yeah.
They're the same. And Jiu Jitsu, sometimes you know who you are, you motherfuckers. Some of you can be very political. You train well, you know. They got none of that in them. They're always very welcome, and it goes a long way. Do you know what I mean? I feel like you get better from that. So if you're coming in here, like, do you want to produce fighters as well? Or just sort of have normal?
Yeah,
people?
look, I think going forward, I want to develop fighters.
Is that like pro fighters and all sorts?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we was to sit
So
down
I think,
here again,
like, personally, I think I've got a better boxing brain, and I'm still right now trying to get my coach brain into my fights, you know?
Right.
So I feel like the fighter and the coach are separate. From the coach, I see a lot more. So.
Yeah. And how would you say you are 32 now?
Yeah.
How long do you see yourself fighting?
I mean, I feel good. I feel like I'm getting stronger and fitter, to be honest. I think maybe another 5 years.
Yeah. Because again, like I've had this conversation on it a million times. Like 37 from 20 years ago, is it? Do you know what I mean? If you
It's
look after
completely
yourself,
different now.
It's a different world nowadays. Do you know what I mean? But like, I forgot the question I was going to ask you. Then it was something specific about the gym. But if we go to sort of like, that's what it was. If we sat down in sort of 10 years' time, like, what would you want to see from this place? Is there multiple locations, or is this one just sort of the mecca?
I think in 10 years we could have a much bigger, better facility and be the hub for boxing in East London.
Is that what you want? Yeah.
Yeah, the hub. So, you know, if fighters come to the UK, they know, okay, I'm stopping off at City Boxing Camp because people want to learn boxing the right way. People are going to know who I am, they're going to know my achievements, and I'm going to be able to give back as well.
That's interesting. And like, by that point, I'm assuming you're going to tell me you want to produce the world champion or some kind of...
Working on it.
Have you got someone in mind of you that might fit that bill?
Some of the kids that we've got here are looking fine. If they keep going the way they are, then they're going to be way better than us, so yeah.
But that's how it should be, isn't it?
Exactly.
They should learn from your experiences, because that was another thing back in the day. You get the grizzly old trainer that don't want you to be as good as he was. Do you know what I mean? Which is bizarre in itself. But like, if we go back to the Roy Jones, he's on the wall over there. I'm looking at.
Yeah.
He's what was that seminar like? Because the reason I asked, where we did the Malik Scott one, which I was here for.
Yep.
Very fundamentally sound, very much hand here. If you watch Roy Jones fight, he didn't do any of that, right?
Yep.
Everything was like what you'd call wrong. Like obviously it weren't wrong, because he's one of the best fighters. My personal opinion, the greatest pound for pound boxer to ever fight.
Yep.
So. But he did a lot of things that, like, if you showed a coach that and you didn't say it came from Roy Jones, they'd go, what the fuck was that? Do you know what I mean? What was the seminar like with him?
So Roy's interesting, because if you look at Roy's perspective, he's been a fighter, top level. He's been a coach and a commentator. And I think maybe he's done some management as well. So he's kind of got all corners of the game covered. And he understands that not everyone can do the things he did.
Right.
But he also understands that each individual is different and you should kind of work to their strengths. So he wouldn't try and change you too much, but it was kind of like, if you asked a question on how do I throw this shot, for example, or how did you throw your triple left hook, he'll still show you how to do it, but he'll also be like, you know, you can't just go in there and start throwing triple left hooks.
It's like, it's not for you.
Exactly.
Like, don't worry about it.
But, so yeah, he's kind of working, it's like work to your own strengths, I think was his main thing.
Yeah, and was it as, I'm assuming it was busy, right? I was going to say, was it as sort of like heavy duty? Not heavy duty, because the Malik Scott one wasn't, but by the end of it, like I said, when we started, I'm doing technical stuff. I'm thinking this is like a practice. But by the end of it, I was sweating like a pig, and it was a workout. Was Roy's a workout as well?
One thing about Roy, he's a machine.
Is he? Yeah. Still.
Like, he came and he did 3 seminars back to back.
Did he?
Bang, bang, bang.
How long are they lasting?
Hour and a half each.
Oof.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's serious.
So he was sweating buckets, putting in work. And yeah, this one was, we ran it a little bit differently. So we did kind of stations. So we did, it'd be 5 in the ring with Roy at a time. And then it'll be like specific pads with him and technique, working drills like that. The rest on the bags, circuits, and then coming in for that
right,
session,
so it was a proper, like a boxing, like amateur club session
exactly,
type
yeah.
thing. Yeah, that's cool.
But he was just going back to back to back to back. Crazy, man. Work ethic, insane.
I bet. Is he coming back?
Absolutely.
Good, because I want to be on that short list, bro.
Don't worry, we got you.
Listen, don't forget my number. Don't forget the little people.
We got you.
Yeah, but like with your training now, like you're running this, right? Do you get the chance to train as freely as you want to? Not that I'm giving the opponent like, oh, he ain't training, but you know what I'm saying? Like, are you still able to train?
This is boxing, bro.
Yeah.
You don't train, you get beat up.
That's what I'm kind of getting at. You know what I mean? You got to, ain't you?
So I think a lot of coaches will relate to this. It's like, the gym is now work. It's like, I don't want to go to work to train, you know?
Yeah.
So that's what I found really hard at the start when we first started the business. Was like, okay, maybe I'll do 2 or 3 classes back to back, a 1-to-1. And then by the end, I'm just knackered, mental fatigue from seeing the same environment. And it's hard to get the system firing again. But I think what helps me now is doing that 2 sessions a day. So get my early morning in. So as long as I'm my runs, my sprints, then in the evening, even if I do have an off day or I'm teaching a lot, then at least I know, look, I've already put in serious work today already.
Yeah,
so.
But that's interesting. And I'll tell you another thing with the coaching, what you mentioned there, which made me think, is that I think sometimes people, and I guess you said it with Roy as well, how he kind of, each individual. I think you can overcoach people, right? Do you come up against that? You know, where sometimes it's just like, you've got to leave people alone a little bit, just to see what they do. Let them experience getting jabbed in the head and see what they do, versus like, if me and you, for example, we probably weigh a similar weight, but you're a lot taller than me, we're going to box different, like we can't be taught exactly the same, etc., etc. It's kind of a basic example, but I think you get where I'm coming from, right? Where it's like, you can't just like, this is how you do it, go at it. Do you know what I mean?
No, like I said, each fighter is different, and we're like intelligent fighters, so you need to be able to figure things out yourself. Your coach is going to see certain things, so I do like a fighter where if I'm giving them an instruction, it's because they have the trust in me that, okay, my coach has seen something I'm not necessarily seeing, and they also have the intelligence to implement it like mid-round.
Yeah.
So I think, if fighters can do that, then it's good, but you're right, fighters need to figure things out themselves sometimes.
Because one thing I heard recently, it's not related to fighting, but it made a lot of sense to me, and you know, one of them things that someone's planted a seed. It's like apparently Maradona, the footballer.
Yeah.
Apparently he didn't play for a team till he was 11.
Interesting.
And before that, he was just kicking a ball back in the dirt, like in dirt poverty in Argentina, playing games and whatever. Now, I'm sure someone's watching it and goes, that didn't fucking happen. Listen, the documentary said it did, so shut the fuck up, right? But do you know what I mean? Like, he was able to develop to that point, whereas I think a lot of people get things coached out of them too early. Like, if you go to a boxing club and you see a kid throwing some wild stuff on a bag, but he happens to have long arms, or he happens to be super explosive, or he happens to be fill in the blank, sometimes I think there is an element of leave him to it a little bit, do you know what I mean? Keep your hand up, do this right, don't step that way because you're going to get chinned, but simple instructions, do you see where I'm coming from? And I think that goes for the corner as well. Like, how many times on amateur shows, before the bout, I've seen someone getting a full pad session, go this way, move this way, when he does it, too late for that. In the corner, people are going, right, move this way, he's throwing a jab, and then we do it. And it's like, bro, he ain't got time for that. Tell him to move his head to the left because the jab's coming. Do you know what I'm saying? Something simple. And like, is that something you're conscious of as a coach?
Yeah, look, you can't, I don't think giving too many, you have to give clear, concise instructions. And I think the more I get into my coaching bag, it's like, I now love how we have audio in the corners and hearing what the corner's saying to them. And then I'm now watching to see, take away the excitement of the fight. Okay, what instructions is that cornerman giving him? And can the fighter now follow it and implement it in that round? So I'll now listen to that a lot more. And I think the best coaches, clear, concise instructions. Because when you're in there, you know what it's like. You're feeling a million things. You're like, is my breathing right? The crowd's there. There's a lot on the line. High risk, shots flying all over the place. That's why you have to have a calm, clear voice, not too many voices, really simple instructions in between rounds.
And do you want to go up the gears in the coaching as well? Do you want to like be in the corner for people when they're at that sort of world
100%.
level? Oh, you do?
100%.
That's what you want to be?
I love that.
Oh, you do? Yeah. Have you
it's
got
like
any fighters now that are kids, we won't mention names, that are sort of kids that you look at and go, 10 years time, he might be the kiddie?
Yeah, like I said, there's a few in the youth class that are looking really tasty already, and I'm just thank God that we've got this location that they can come to, they can come frequently, as many times a week as they want, and they're getting to work on their skills and the confidence that you see them in. They're coming quiet and shy, and you know, a couple of months they're leaving like, wow, I'm really good at something, and they've caught that bug for boxing, and like they just got the bug. They just love it. Keep learning, keep progressing.
And I've kind of asked you a little bit already earlier, but like, with strength and conditioning, that's something that people can get, I think, again, very overly into. I also know people, not so much boxing, but more sort of from the grappling world, that are so strength conditioning heavy, they're doing really well. Some people that don't do any strength conditioning, all they do is grapple, they're doing really well. And on both sides, they're not doing well. Other people, are not doing well because they're not doing strength conditioning or because they're doing too much strength, etc., etc. It's not one size fits all. But like, do you have a view on strength conditioning? Because boxing historically is don't lift weights, bro, it makes you stiff. You know what I mean? It's like one of them. Like, have you got much of a thing that you push on your guys?
So, I think it's a developing journey for me. I think when I was in the amateurs, I didn't lift any weights at all.
Okay.
I did, like before boxing, I lifted some weights, but I found I bulked up quickly and became quite stiff. And for my style in the amateurs, it was more like fast feet, fast hands combinations, hit, move, hit, move. But the more research I've done, I found that it can really help with your explosive power. And moving to the kind of semi-pro, unlicensed scene, it's like, look, it's 10-ounce gloves, no head guard, and people want knockouts. So we're looking to punch a lot harder, I think. So I've incorporated a bit more strength into my routine now. So I do like one strength session a week, but I'm focused on explosive drills as opposed to just lifting heavy for lifting heavy's sake.
Ain't standing in the mirror doing your bicep curls
exactly,
like for the summer and all that game. Yeah, but I tell you what's interesting for me is like the old school boxing circuits used to do at the end of like an amateur session.
Yep.
Like I used to at the time, like when I started to get what I thought was knowledge, sort of becoming into training and whatnot, I'd go, this is not, you know. But now I look back and I go, there's a lot of power to that basic shit. And like clap push-ups, jump squats, all kind of basic things that a human body is designed to move, right? I don't know if you're aware of a fella called Ido Portal.
Who, sorry?
Ido Portal.
I don't think I heard of him.
So I've mentioned him a lot on here. I know I'm a broken record, but whatever. He's sort of a movement guy. So I learned how to do handstands and flips and all kinds of stuff under him.
Yep.
He trained Conor McGregor for a while, doing like movement stuff. But there's an element of, if your body moves well, you can learn skills better, right? Which is what I probably didn't take on board from that kind of training early enough. You know, you're just trying to chase the next skill and like stand on one hand and all that kind of business. But I think if you implement it, like obviously the focus here is boxing, right? If you're going to box, but you're, like you touched on, your feet are faster, your hands are faster, you're more loose to move to the side, etc., etc. That's how I feel like strength. And again, strength and conditioning is a dirty word, isn't it? Like, because it can mean a million things. But that's how strength and conditioning could be geared. And I feel like a lot of people over the years have got into the habit of like, how much do you bench press? Now I'm bench pressing more, so I must be stronger, so that must make me punch harder. And it doesn't. Do you see where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
I'm kind of talking in a circle, but like with strength and conditioning, if you on a basic level, if your hands move faster, it's working, right? Like, and I think you touched on it earlier with the sprint style of training. Like, there's medicine balls over there, so I'm assuming they get slung around all over the place. But like with sprint training, I feel like some people, you've got to be careful with that because of injuries. And I don't mean injuries like you're going to pull a hamstring, that's obvious. I mean in terms of doing too much and frying the nervous system too much. Because we've all been in sparring where you go, today's not the day. Do you know what I mean? And it can hinder the training. I guess I'm talking around in a circle.
That makes perfect sense.
Strength and conditioning for the sake of strength and conditioning versus you're not gearing it towards, I'm fighting on this day. I need my sparring to be perfect. Do you see where I'm coming from? And like with kids, obviously that's a completely different thing. But with training your fighters, do you force any strength and conditioning on them? I guess is what I'm trying to say. Or is that kind of not an optional extra, but is that up to each individual?
Up to each individual, but I say, look, press-ups and sit-ups daily, like just daily, as a staple. Just for that strong core, explosive shoulders. Like that's the key for me, I think. Just as your staple, make sure you're getting sets in, reps, but fast and explosive in good form.
Do you fuck with like Olympic lifting and stuff like that?
I think it's good.
Do you? Because here's the thing, right? And I'll let you answer. But like the reason I ask is because I've done it in the past a lot, and I was progressing with it, and I was doing some pretty
clean
impressive.
and jerk, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I was doing some pretty impressive numbers for my weight in an Olympic lifting gym. So I was going there for that, right? But then I was like, at a certain point, I was like.
What, you felt plateau?
Well, no, I just felt like, is it really helping me? Or do I think it's helping me just because the numbers are going up? Do you know what I'm saying? And I feel like, for me personally, and again, I'll let you answer, I'm not talking over you, but like, I like sort of gymnastic style training. It does for me. Jumping around, I'm training for like one arm chin ups, things like that.
Okay,
like your
yeah.
muscle ups, your handstands on ring, etc. Like using your body, walking on your hands, things like that. That's where, and again, it's not one size fits all, but for me personally, that's where I feel my best.
Yeah, yeah.
And I feel like mistakes people make sometimes is, and I did it for sure. You know, I'm going to squat X amount. Okay, next week I'm going to squat plus 5 kilos. Before you know it, over the course of 6 months, I'm squatting fucking 50 kilos more, bro. I'm strong as shit. But your boxing sucks. Do you know what I mean? It hasn't helped you at all. At best, it hasn't helped you. And in reality, it's probably hindered you. Do you come up against that at all?
Yeah, look, I think, look, boxing training, and one coach said to me, is like, do specific training to your drills. It's like, if you want to work on your legs, no point squatting, just go around the ring and just work your footwork around the ring for 20 minutes. Your legs are going to be knackered by it, but it's very specific to your training. So I think making sure it's as specific to your sport as possible is really important. It's really sport-specific training.
Yeah, and here's another. I'm going to throw a curveball at you now. Like with sport-specific training, I think a mistake some people make. I agree with you, obviously, right? Common sense. But I do think there's an element of some people overly specifically train instead of being a generalist. So not that you shouldn't train specifically, of course, but at the same time, being a good athlete, like you're doing sprints, right? I'd class that as like general. Do you know what I mean? Push-ups, squats, all that kind of. It's general training. So like with the old Soviet, I don't know if you're familiar with like the Soviet Union style of training. I got a bit of a fascination with that kind of stuff. Yeah. Whereas it was like, you specialize later. Do you know what I mean? And like obviously if you're boxing, you specialize, but you need to be human first in some sense. You take that on board because it sounds like you do. I mean, I don't know whether it's conscious, but you do your sprints, you're doing push-ups daily and all that kind of stuff, sit-ups. Like, is that a conscious in your mind of like making sure the vessel's looked after?
Yeah, you have to look after your body generally. But my approach is generally to take some of the old school, some of the new school. So have the staple of the old school fighters. And as we know, with boxing, that cardio and fitness, a lot of people just used to do road work, just go and run 10K every day. And that's going to make you one-paced, which is why I started the variation with like a couple days longer runs, a couple days of the sprints to kind of imitate more the rounds in boxing.
Yeah, that makes sense. And what's your rounds you're fighting at? You fighting threes?
Yeah, threes.
You fight 3 minutes because like I was at a white collar show, I say recently, it was about 2 years ago, and I think there was a minute and a half, like grown adults, but I think there was a minute and a half rounds, and like the pace was on. But even in that minute and a half, people was like, like, I'd never boxed before, right? So you can imagine. But do you fight with white collar here at all?
Say again?
Is there any white collar stuff going on here?
We've got a few guys that come do their one-to-ones and they go on to do the shows afterwards.
Oh, is that right? But you're not sort of pushing that yourself? Not
necessarily. I think, look, it's a good way for people that have never had a bout before. It's comfortable, as in they get to spar with them first, and I think there's going to be a lot of good fighters have come from it because they found out, wow, I'm actually good at this.
Fabio Woodley did. I've spoken about this recently. Like that blows away. I'm not knocking white collar boxing by any means, but from any sparring I've done white collar guys or watching white collar shows, which is very limited, don't get me wrong, but I go like, yeah, that's what you'd expect it to be. So to hear someone like that who's doing so well in the pros, I'm like, how did that happen? So I'm assuming there's like levels in the white collar, right? Yeah,
look, I think there's, like I said, there's organizations that run themselves as like professional organizations, right? And there's fighters there that would beat amateurs and pros as well. So I don't think it's somewhere that it's not an end destination. I think it's somewhere that you go to improve your skills and get a feel for more of a pro feel. You know who your opponents are, you can watch their videos, you can research them, you have to sell tickets, there's big crowds, whereas amateurs sometimes you just turn up, the guy might turn up, the guy might not turn up.
Yeah, that's it.
You don't know who he is, and you kind of go for it. But look, I think there's something to that as well, because it builds character. It
does, yeah.
And going in there, that could be the next Mike Tyson coming up, you have no idea, right? Whereas I think there's a little bit more safety when you know who you're fighting.
Yeah. I got you, yeah. And like your bout's obviously coming up now. How many times are you going to have an unlicensed fight before you go, fuck it, let's do the pro one?
I've got unfinished business, that's my thing. I've got some belts to collect.
Is that right? Okay, cool.
I had a horrible Achilles injury about a year ago, literally a year ago. So, yeah, this is kind of like my comeback.
Is that right? And how long has it been since you've been out of the ring?
I had a comeback 2 months ago. So
okay, so you're back already?
Yeah, I'm back now. And yeah, but now I feel 100%. I'm ready to go.
Ready to rock and roll. How's the last bout go with the Achilles?
It was good. It was 6-2, so it wasn't as explosive as I'd like to be. So I was kind of feeling the distance. I hadn't done 6 rounds before. But yeah, a lot more in the tank.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, it seems like it. But like when you said before, you said you want to have one pro bout. Is that it? Just one and done? That's the goal?
I know myself. If it's good, then look, we're gonna continue going, isn't it?
Well, let's get a move on, son. I'm thinking like, hey, why not get in there and then like, because you know how that goes. We all know people. Well, we don't all know people, but I know certain people that have gone, I just want to have a pro bout, and then they go, well, I'll have a few more. Maybe I'll go for a Southern area title. You know what I mean? And
Exactly.
it's like, before you know it, you know.
Exactly. That's how it goes, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's
but
how it goes.
you've got no ambitions at this point of saying, right, I want a pro career.
I don't know, man.
Oh,
Look,
really?
boxing's a crazy sport, bro.
Yeah.
Boxing's a crazy sport. It's like, I don't know. You have to be selling a lot of tickets really at that ground level unless you have really big backing and sponsors. So that's never really been my thing. I just like boxing for myself.
Right.
So I'm not really one to push and promote too hard. I just like to test myself more times. So look, it's one of them things. Like I said, I believe in God. God will guide my direction, and if that's where He wants me to be and wants me to do, then so be it. If not, then look, I'm sure in 20 years' time I'll be in a corner for a world champion somewhere.
Boom, I like it, man. Well, look, this has been great. I could talk to you all day about kind of stuff that would probably bore people to tears, but we'll leave it there, man. But that was really good, so I appreciate you doing this, mate.
No, I appreciate you. Thank you for coming down.
Mate, before we finish, you've already ruined this question. I always ask people at the end what football team they support.
Oh,
You
yeah.
said Newcastle, so maybe I'll ask you a different question instead. The correct answer is Chelsea, by the way. For reference, in case you come back on it. But so I'll ask you a different question instead. I'll ask you who's your favourite boxer of all time?
I would say it's a very hard question for me to answer. Like, you know, the more you get into sports, then you start to like all fighters.
Cool,
you know what I mean?
yeah, absolutely. Don't sit on the fence, bro.
I would say Andre Ward.
Andre Ward, interesting, curveball. All right, I got you. My guy. Top man, I always finish with a fist up like this, mate. Squeeze the neck. Boom!
Squeeze the neck, let's go.